So I'm going to take a look at the One More ComfoBuds Pro today, loosely comparing to obviously AirPods, which is sort of, you know, the gold standard of these kinds of things. But the key thing here is that the price is much lower on these than the AirPods, so that has a huge impact on the context of how I'm evaluating these. So they were sent to me for free in exchange for a little unboxing video, but I was quite happy to do a full review because when I saw the Amazon listing, I noticed they were sort of mentioning that they were tuned by this Grammy award-winning musician, and that kind of suggests to me that they might sound really good and they're proud of the way they sound. So I was really interested to check them out just on those grounds alone, actually, because I'm really interested in you know, the pursuit of good quality audio. So there should be a discount code in the description below if you wanted to pick these up. You can use that and get some money off. I do recommend them at the price they're at, especially if you can get a little discount as well. They really are remarkable for the price. And in this video, I'm going to look at sort of the reasons why I've come to that conclusion. So let's first just drill through the features. So they're the inner ear type headphone with a soft silicone tip. So the idea is you get a seal in your ear. And that kind of technology has obviously been around for a while. Apple have now got the AirPods Pro, which uses the same kind of idea. So what is really striking about these in terms of the sound is the bass. You get this amazing bass extension and it doesn't sound muddy, and it's crucial that you get that seal. You have to sort of get it, you'll feel it seal in your ear. You know, if you don't get that bass drops off, but you know that you can then kind of tweak it. If it feels a bit too much for you, you don't have to sort of push them all the way in and create that seal. You can kind of adjust it to an extent there as well, but if you want to get that really full sound, the good seal is essential. And what's interesting is you're not really feeling like you have to turn them up to feel that bass. You can get that amazing full range sound even at low volumes. You know, quite often I find with headphones you want to turn them up to sort of hear the bass. For me, with the headphones that go in your ears, I'm always slightly concerned that you're having them at a too loud a volume and they're causing damage. With these, you can really enjoy them at the low volumes. The bass and the fullness of the sound is there even at those lower volumes. So they have active noise cancellation, which is obviously where they use the microphones inside to listen for the sounds that they then play you the sort of counteracting sound to make that sound disappear for you, which is interesting. So obviously with the sealed design as well, they have great passive cancellation of the sound, but when you turn this on, it really does go quiet. You know, it's a weird kind of thing. I don't particularly like it very much. I like to know what's going on around me, especially with kids and the dog and things. So, but it is really good for drowning out that background noise if you are in an environment where you want to get rid of it. So they've got this wind reduction mode as well, and I wasn't quite sure what that was. I had to sort of figure it out, whether it was a wind reduction mode when you were talking for the other person with the microphones, but it's actually a bit different. So you actually do hear a strange wind noise effect when you have the noise cancelling mode turned on. The microphones that are listening for the sounds to drown out actually sort of generate that wind noise, which it doesn't manage to drown out because it's a strange noise. It's not actually real sound, it's the effect of the wind on the microphone, that boomy noise. But they have got a wind noise reduction mode which attempts to get rid of that noise whilst maintaining the active noise cancelling, and that does kind of work. You know, it's not quite as good as the active noise cancelling without the wind noise reduction, but obviously you don't hear that weird wind noise. So it's a pretty cool feature if you were, you know, outside in the wind and you wanted to get rid of the sound as well. So they've got a control surface on the outside which can react to taps and a hold as well. So you can cycle through the different noise cancellation modes with the hold, and then the different taps can do things like trigger the voice control on your phone, which actually does trigger Siri just fine as well. So that works well. You can actually, you know, get Siri with a triple tap, and then you can interact with Siri as you would normally. So it's interesting. I've tested these out with my Mac, my iPad, and my iPhone, and Siri with a triple tap works just fine on all three of those devices. So there's a companion app for your phone which actually shows you the battery levels of the pods themselves and the case, which is pretty cool, and the actual operating system on the phone will show you the battery level of the earbuds themselves as well. So there's actually 4 different sound modes that these things have, 2 different strengths of noise cancellation, and then the pass-through mode, which is where it plays you the sound from the outside world to sort of offset the passive cancellation of the in-ear design, which is an actually pretty cool way of doing it. You can walk around with them in and you can still have conversation with someone, so I actually quite like using them like that. And then there's the wind noise mode, which is a mode for noise cancellation, but it also deals with the noise effect of the wind on the microphone as well. So when you're wearing them, you can actually tap and hold to cycle through 3 different noise cancellation modes. One is just that there's no active noise cancellation at all, so just the passive reduction effect of the earbuds themselves. If you tap and hold again, and that will then enable the noise cancellation mode that you set up in the app for, you know, when you have noise cancellation on. So it's either strong or mild, or the wind reduction version. And then the next time you tap and hold, it will cycle through to the pass through. So that option always is in that 3 pattern cycle, and then again to turn it off. But you can choose which of the 3 kinds of noise reduction you get when you turn that one on through the control surface. So this is where the difference between the polish that you get with Apple products starts to show compared to these cheaper, just standard Bluetooth products. So when you want to change devices, so if you've got them paired to your Mac and you want to change back to your phone, you have to remember to disconnect from the Mac before you reconnect to the phone. Otherwise they just reconnect to the same device every time, and that works quite well. If it's paired to something, every time you open the case it will reconnect to that last device that it was connected to, and that's really fast as well. But obviously that does create a problem if you wanted to change the device. So there's two ways of doing it. One is, as I just said, to disconnect first, then you can go into settings, Bluetooth, and reconnect to the new one, and it just switches over pretty quick, and you can leave them in your ears while you do that as well, and that works fine. But let's say you've moved away from the original device, but it can still connect to it. So you open up the case, it connects to the other device, and you're on a different room or whatever. To solve that problem, you have to make sure the pods are back in the case, and then you triple tap the button on the case. That pops it into pairing mode. Then you can connect to it from the new device. You haven't got to repair it. You can just tap it from your list on your device, and it will switch and connect to it for that. And that again happens pretty quick. It's just remembering that workflow. Obviously with AirPods, it just literally sort of follows the device around and automatically changes, even based on what which device you're using to play a sound, and it will switch back. So that kind of thing with the AirPods, obviously that's a bit of a differentiator. If you see the value in that, obviously needs something to justify that massive price difference. But considering the price we're talking about here, then I think the features on offer are still very compelling. With the battery life, I haven't done any extensive tests, but they do seem to last a long time. Obviously they charge in the case as well, and like AirPods, you can obviously just switch from one to the other to do that, so you can keep one in while the other one's charging, which is a really brilliant way of using these things if you're using them for a call. Another thing I always try and test with headphones is what they're like when you're listening to them at night time and you're just on the very lowest sound. Is there a background hiss? And I couldn't hear any hiss at all from these. I just had it on the lowest level on my phone, and it's quite enjoyable listening to that very low level. There was no hiss. So what about the microphone sound quality? Well, I'm going to put them on now, and I'll just switch from this microphone to these. So I'll pop them in, and we'll test that out. So when you pop them in, you get a little connected ding-dong noise, which is better than a sort of weird, strange voice saying connected, which you get with a lot of these things. It's all just a noise that you hear. Obviously, this is the pure recording straight onto the phone here. If you were on the other side of a phone call, obviously the sound would deteriorate from here, but I think it's obviously most important that you hear what the things themselves are capable of recording. So in terms of the sound quality of the things themselves, I do kind of value good sounding speakers and headphones. I've always kind of experimented with those, and I'm very keen on trying to find the best value for money with these kinds of things. It's a bit of a dark art, because obviously you can pay huge amounts of money for speakers, and it's not always directly proportional to the quality of the sound that you get. And I think this is exactly one of those cases. For the price that they are, the sound quality is just remarkable. I've listened to tracks on here that I've known all my life, and they sound new. When you play them through this, you hear them as if you've heard them for the first time. So the best kind of use case for these things is letting you appreciate music without the impact of the acoustics of your room, which is the big problem with speakers. You can get amazing speakers, and if you put them in a room that's too small or not sound treated, you get these reverb effects, and it really, really changes the way the music sounds. With these, you're not getting any interaction with the room around you, and that's for me, the most compelling reason to listen to music on headphones like these. Combine that with the fact that they have this incredible bass and range, and the characteristics, I would describe them. So you've got this incredibly full bass. It's not muddy, it's tight, it's powerful, not overwhelming. But then through the rest of the range, you haven't got harshness. Normally with the cheaper sort of headphones, you get that very harsh treble. There's no harshness here. I don't find them fatiguing to listen to from the treble at all. It's a lovely balanced sound, incredibly spacious, and the separation between the sounds and the instruments is really good, just because they're so able to reproduce the detail there, but the detail without the harshness, which I think is a really important thing. And it's detail not just in the treble too. You're hearing the detail in the mids and the bass, which is so brilliant here. You haven't got that muddiness and the clutter that you sometimes get with cheaper speakers in the bass. It can still sound bassy, but there's no detail in there, whereas I don't find that at all with these. So in terms of understanding roughly how I'm evaluating the sound quality of these things, my personal preference for speakers and headphones is that they should be transparent. They shouldn't color the sound at all. But that's my goal, really, is just to hear what the musician intended. I'm not interested in making something sound good. I'm just trying to really focus on how the speakers interact with my room more than anything, to avoid the room affecting the sound too much when I'm listening to speakers. But then with headphones, obviously, I'm just really after that pure transparent sound that really lets the music come through. And I think these really do deliver quite well on that. So 2 examples of tracks that really surprised me here. Fat Bottom Girls by Queen. I've heard it hundreds of times. Never have I heard the drums come through so well as here. They're kind of a sort of very analog, very, very powerful, punchy sound. And it's, on normal cheaper speakers, it can just sound just like sort of a bit of a background rhythm. With these, you can really hear the whole drum kit working, and it's just amazing. It really makes you appreciate the drumming going on there. So that was a surprise, a very pleasant surprise. Another nice track to listen to if you pick these up is Tuck 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 by Lior Shuv. Not sure how you pronounce that. Incredible musician, really, really great sound, and does a lot with sort of banging stuff and stamping feet and bashing boxes and all these kind of real life sounds, and those just really come through. You can really sort of hear the sound they're making in space, and really enjoyable to listen to. Another one by Lior Shuv would be The Boat as well. Make sure you check that out. Incredible string bass sounds as well. All really good example of what these earphones are capable of. So obviously with normal Bluetooth headphones, and these are no exception, you do have kind of a range of issues like lag and the occasional disconnection issue. It becomes quite problematic to reconnect. So those kinds of things that the AirPods have really worked hard to solve, and they really have. Whereas obviously this is just using normal Bluetooth without that extra Apple layer on top of it. So you have all the normal limitations of that technology, and it can be a little bit annoying if you walk out of range and they've disconnected and you come back and only one reconnects, and you have to sort of take them all out, put them back in the case and reconnect to solve that sort of a problem. And then there's the occasional random disconnect as well, very occasional. So I've used these for a couple of weeks quite extensively. It is minimal, and it's certainly no more or no less, I don't think, than any other kind of Bluetooth headphones. So comfort, obviously, with something like this is quite an important thing, but it's completely individual. It's basically a gamble, I think. When you buy something like this, it is a gamble. And I think this applies to any kind of headphone or in-ear earpiece. There's just no way of knowing if you're going to find it comfortable or not. And these are interesting for me because in my left ear, I don't feel them at all. I could listen to them easily all day. I could have it in my ear. But on my right ear, this kind of chunky part of the body of the thing here sort of feels like it's pressing on my ear, and I haven't managed to avoid that happening. So after a couple of hours, I just have to take them out. But of course, they are fine in the other ear, so it's definitely a close thing. Obviously, there's something slightly different about my right ear that just makes these slightly uncomfortable in a way that normal AirPods are fine with. I've not tried the AirPod Pros to compare those. I'd be interested to do that. They are called ComfoBuds, so I guess most people will find these comfortable. So I think this is one of those cases where they're a brand selling through Amazon. You can use the Amazon return policy basically to find out if you're going to find them comfortable or not. If they're not comfortable, you can send them back. If they are comfortable for you, then you're getting an amazingly good value product here. I'm definitely really happy to recommend these. So I will compare the size of the case to the original AirPods. The original AirPods really is a tiny case, whereas this one is quite thick. There's no sort of thin part of it. It's kind of round and long. So it's definitely a bigger bulge in the pocket than the old AirPods. So on this channel I make videos looking at design, usability and workflow, so a product like this is super interesting to me. So hit subscribe for more of this kind of thing, and I'll see you in the next one.